In Activity 9, Jet Planes, students learn how thrust is produced in jet planes. They first discover the principles of jet propulsion by assembling and experimenting with a balloon-powered jet craft. Students then relate an increase in power to an increase in thrust. You will need the following materials from the kit: Activity Sheet 9, long balloons, a roll of fishing line, plastic straws, masking tape, and a tongue depressor. You will also need to provide a pair of scissors, chairs, and metric rulers. To prepare for the activity, make a copy of Activity Sheet 9 for each student. Cut one 20-meter length of fishing line for each team of 4 and wrap each length of a fishing line around a tongue depressor. Each team of 4 will need 2 long balloons, a metric ruler, a straw, a tongue depressor wound with 20 meters of fishing line, and 2 pieces of masking tape. You will also need a small long balloon, a straw, and 2 pieces of masking tape. Make sure to clear some space in the classroom for students to set up their runways. To begin the activity, have students recall their work with propellers in Activity 8 and remind them that propellers produce the thrust that pushes the airplane through the air. Also, remind them that some planes have jet engines. Inform the class that in this activity they will make and launch their own jet-propelled craft. Then, divide the class into teams of 4 and distribute the materials. Instruct each team to set up a fishing line runway between 2 chairs placed about 20 meters apart, as they did in Activity 8. Next, have students attach a balloon to the straw. One student should blow up one of the balloons until it is half inflated to about the length of the straw, and then pinch the neck closed so that no air escapes. The other team member should then help tape the inflated balloon to the straw. When all students have finished setting up their balloon-powered craft, ask, "What does the straw represent in this model?" Students should understand that the straw represents the body of the plane. Then ask students, "What does the balloon represent?" Guide students to understand that the balloon represents the jet engine. Tell the class to hold the balloon under the straw with its neck against the back of one chair. When students are ready, they should let go of the balloon and watch what happens. After all teams have launched their craft, ask, "What happened to your balloon-powered jet?" Students should have observed that the balloon rushed along the fishing line at a high speed. Then ask, "Why do you think the balloon shot forward when you released its neck?" Help students realize that when a balloon is inflated, air is forced into it, and when you let go of the neck of the balloon, air is pushed out the neck. This causes the balloon to move in the opposite direction, just like the thrust of a jet engine. Next, distribute a copy of Activity Sheet 9 to each student and instruct the class to examine the diagram at the top of the page. Encourage students to think about how jet engines work, which is by drawing in air through the front of the engine and then compressing or squeezing the air. After the air is compressed, it is forced into the combustion chamber, where the air is mixed with fuel and ignited. This produces an explosion that shoots a stream of hot air out the back of the engine, much like air escaping from a balloon. Ask students, based on what you just learned about how balloons produce thrust, how do you think a jet engine produces thrust? Students should be able to explain that air rushing out one end causes the jet to move in the opposite direction. Instruct students to then draw and label arrows on the top of their activity sheets to show the direction of the exhaust out the back of the engine and the direction of thrust produced. Students should repeat their test flight twice more, first using the half-inflated balloon, then using the other balloon fully inflated. Make sure students measure the distance traveled each time and record the results on their activity sheets. When all students have finished, ask, "Did your jet craft travel farther with the half-inflated or fully inflated balloon?" Students should conclude that the jet flew farthest when the fully inflated balloon was attached. The more air in the balloon, the longer it takes to deflate, resulting in longer thrust and a longer flight. Encourage students to study their data and ask, "What can you conclude about engine size and thrust?" Students should conclude that the larger the engine, the more thrust it produces. The more thrust produced, the farther and/or faster the plane will travel. Ask students, "What keeps your balloon jets flying in a straight line?" Students should understand that the fishing line guides the jet in a straight line. Finally, inform students that in the next activity, controlling a plane, they are going to learn how pilots control the flight path of real airplanes. To conclude the activity, have students dismantle their fishing line runways and balloon-powered jets. Discard the fishing line and the balloons, and return the tongue depressors, straws, and roll of tape to the kit. For science background, reinforcement activities, curriculum connections, and information about the Delta Science Reader, please consult your DSM Teacher's Guide.